ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्मिनहं शलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरुः साक्षात् परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai. English. മലയാളത്തിൽ പറഞ്ഞ അറിയാത്ത So we'll talk in English. First of all, thanks Swamiji for inviting me here. It's a privilege always to come, and for me blissful experience to come to Anandashram. Since we are in a place where bliss and happiness is measured through devotion and bhakti, it's a good idea not to go into all kinds of intellectual Upanishad dialogues. However, I would like to approach it because there is a misunderstanding usually that the Upanishads are merely intellectual argument discussions, hair splitting, dukkha karne argument. Unfortunately, it's a wrong conception. This is not true. What the Upanishad is trying to instill into our heads, I'm coming to bhakti, please don't worry, is that however intelligent you are, whatever be the intellectual capacity you have, a person with a really intelligent mind very soon discovers carefully the limitations of the intellect. The function of the Upanishad is to say that one needs to think, don't put your mind into cold storage, but think with the understanding that there are limitations for the mind which is so limited with our puny brain to understand something that is infinite. To quote the Upanishad, the Supreme Being, you can call by any name, Shuddha Brahma Parat Paranam, any other name. That Supreme Being, according to the Upanishad, is Yadvachana Bhyutitam, that which even words cannot explain. So actually this talk is futile because words cannot explain, but we can only try our best. And the other is Yan Manasa Namanyute, that even the ordinary mind cannot grasp. Here manas, mind here includes intelligence, everything together, put together, thought, which means that which even thought cannot reach, the ordinary thought. If thought can never reach, then we can't reach there, out of question. But the ordinary mind, ordinary thought, which is not purified, which is not surrendered, which is not quiet, cannot touch that. This is the aim of the Upanishad. To explain this to us, one of the most, we all know, you should be proud that he was from Kerala, although we are not supposed to be proud of such things, but Adi Shankaracharya came from this part of the country. You know that he wrote commentaries on all the Upanishads, in all the Brahma Sutras, Karikas on Gaudapata's Karikas, any number of works, Viveka Chudamani, Digdriksha Viveka, hundreds of works, and of course a beautiful commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. I think you can hear me at the back. Are you okay? The same Shankaracharya sang, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam Bhajam Mudamade, fools. I can't say that, but he did, I'm not saying it. Fools, chant the name of Govinda. Samprapte sannihite kale. Your time is drawing near, where you will disappear. We will all disappear. I'm here today after a few years, or maybe after 10 minutes, I'll be gone. Nobody knows. Well, I have a rough idea, but generally we don't know. So, Samprapte sannihite kale. We like to think we'll grow old like him and die after many years. But death is always close to us, closer than our own jugular vein. Nobody knows. That's why people make plans and suddenly everything is gone. Right? So Shankara says, so chant the name of Govinda, you fool. Your time is drawing near. That means it can be any time. Nahi nahi rakshati dukrana karane. Madam, avada enganum onnu irikamo. Amma eduthirno. So, Samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukrana karane. No amount of grammatical hair-splitting arguments are going to help you sing the name of Govinda. This is Shankara, not me. And please remember that it was the same Shankara who wrote this beautiful hymn, beautiful poem on the glorification of the Supreme Mother and the ecstasy of being one with Shivam in the wonderful book called Saundari Lahari. Lahari, you know what it is, bliss, happiness, ecstasy, Saundarya is beauty. So the bliss of, the beautiful bliss of the divine, same person. So having said that, let's go into the Gita a little bit. Now you all know that the Bhagavad Gita, Shankara has also written a commentary on the Bhagavad Gita. Well, I am not a Dasanami person or strictly an Advaitin or anything of that kind, but where respect is due, it has to be given. And in this, I must say that Shankara is one of the greatest of the teachers, although I have equal respect for the great Ramanujacharya, who wrote the Vishishtadvaita, and Madhva, who wrote the Dvaita philosophy. They all have different angles of looking at the same reality. Let me put it this way. Anyway, the Bhagavad Gita is part of the Prasthanatraya. You have the Upanishad, you have the Gita, and you have the Brahma Sutras. The Upanishads are rather not so easy to understand, especially big Upanishads like the Brihadaranyaka. The name defines it. Brihad, big Aranyaka, forest. You get into it and you may go round and round in circles and won't know how to come out. Oh, there are shorter Upanishads also. Now, therefore, it's not so easy for most people to get into the Upanishadic mode. Then there are the Brahma Sutras, next to impossible. Can you imagine a text which starts with Atato Brahma Jijnasa? Here begins the understanding of the Supreme Brahman. We can't define how to. So, but here then comes the Bhagavad Gita, which is in the middle of the two. And it's one of the most important parts of Prasthanatraya if you are a student of Vedanta. Please understand, when I say Vedanta, there is Vedanta, Vedanta as normally understood. There is Bhakti Vedanta and so on. Vedanta simply means the understanding of the truth, after which there is no need to understand anything else. So anyway, in the Gita, there are 18 chapters and it forms part of the Mahabharata, Bhishma Parva of the Mahabharata, and it has 18 chapters. Basically a dialogue between Krishna and Arjuna, even though Krishna does most of the talking, thank God, and Arjuna butts in here and there asking questions, saying, not clear, please explain again. And Krishna very kindly explains, so instead of saying shut up, to note. This is a dialogue. For instance, Dhyana Yoga, there is a chapter. Krishna explains to Arjuna that to understand and be in dhyana, one has to have a mind which is like a flame when there is no wind. Steady. Arjuna listens with great respect, and after that says, all that is fine, but you are asking me to do the impossible. I could rather control the wind than my mind, because the mind is so uncontrollable. It's okay for you to say, oh, it should be like a flame without a wind, but it's not so easy. So please explain. And so this is how the dialogue continues in the Gita. It's been simplified. In fact, the essence of the Upanishads, I would say also the Brahma Sutras, has been very beautifully synthesized, simplified, and given to people like me. I don't know about you. I was about to say you and me, but at least for me. So, this is the central teaching, and in fact, in the Dhyana Sloka of the Gita, Vyasa puts it in his usually beautiful poetic form by saying, by saying that this Gita, which is before you, is the essence of the Upanishads, put in simple language. And he puts it very beautifully by saying, suppose you think that the Upanishads are cows. We are entering a sensitive subject now, cows. Anyway, suppose the Upanishads are cows. Imagine, Sarva Upanishato Gau, all the Upanishads are cows. Dugdha Gopalanandana, and if Krishna, Gopalanandana, is the one who is milking the cow. Partho Vatsaha, if Arjuna is the calf that constantly hits its head against the udder of the cow so that the milk flows. Partho Vatsaha, Sudhir Bhokta, which the wise men enjoy. Dugdham Gitamritam Mahat, and that milk is the Amrita of the Gita. No, Amrita, please watch. It's not the sweet thing that we get at the end of the puja in the temple. That's also Amrita. But the meaning of the word Amrit is Amrita, the deathless state which all of us are entitled to enjoy. There is no man, woman, nothing in that. Everyone is entitled to enjoy, if we try. And if there is grace, of course, but we'll come to that later. So, I think the trial begins only when there is grace. Having said this, since there are 18 chapters in the Gita, starts with the first chapter, which is Arjuna Vishada Yoga. The yoga of Arjuna's discomfort, insecurity, confusion, sorrow. Vishada can be explained in many words. Basically, insecurity, sorrow, don't know what to do. And sorrow, so many people are going to die. It begins with that chapter. Actually, this is the state that most of us are generally. Vishada. We don't know where to proceed. We are in sorrow. We don't know how to come out of it. What shall we do? And we are so insecure. Where it starts. So, the Gita's first chapter is meant not only for that Arjuna, but for all Arjunas. Man or woman? Stand vanda, ivan nallathu. Kekkunnundallo avade. Then it's okay. Kayyo. Koragalam ingane ninna kayyanu. So, What did I say? Kayin or Mardu? Arjuna. So we are all Arjunas in this context. And the Gita is given to us by the Supreme Being who sits inside our heart as the Antaryami. And also is all-pervading. Which in human terms is contradictory, but not in absolute terms. So then it goes on from Arjuna Vishada Yoga to Sankhya and Karma Yoga and so on, till Sannyasa Yoga. In the end, what you have to note is that there is one particular chapter, which is the only chapter in the Gita, which is called Bhakti Yoga. Can you tell me which chapter? 12th chapter. The 12th chapter is called Bhakti Yoga. Now, we start with chapter 1 and then slowly proceed to chapter 12, and there Krishna talks to Arjuna about devotion, bhakti. What is bhakti? What is devotion? 12th chapter. So the question usually asked, if that was so simple and clear, why did Krishna take, or let's say Vyasa take, so many chapters to come to that? Why not first chapter? Should have simplified and finished everything off. This is what usually happens to most people. They suddenly jump into bhakti, which is in chapter 12, without realizing the implications, what it really means. And then they withdraw, they're not sure, they're going back and forth, and then they're caught by some intellectual thing, then they go over there. Then before you know it, they're doing vipassana. Nothing wrong with vipassana, please. So, why did Vyasa, why did Krishna delay 11 chapters to come to 12th chapter? If you listen carefully, if you watch carefully, not me, if you look at the Gita carefully, I know that you are listening to me, but it's very interesting. In all the chapters till 9th, till 8th chapter, 9th, this is the 12th, right? So there is 10 and 11 before that. Till the 9th chapter, the way the narrative goes is very different. Krishna is sitting and he's controlling the chariot. He's a charioteer, Sarathi. And Krishna is sitting, Arjuna is sitting at the back. In fact, Krishna is acting as Arjuna's chauffeur. He's also his very close friend, almost the same age. And they're talking to each other like good friends. There's a direct talk as if we are good friends. That's how it is, right? He asks questions. Arjuna, Krishna says, okay, I'll answer. Let's discuss this. And he's also related to him in some way. So all that is fine. Very friendly, very okay. And then comes in the 10th chapter. Now in the 10th chapter, after discussing Sankhya and Karma Yoga and Dhyana Yoga and various other chapters, Krishna suddenly starts by saying something so extraordinary that Arjuna cannot understand for a second what's going on. This is called the Mahimas. Suddenly Krishna says, till now he was sitting in front and talking to him and riding the chariot. He turns to him and says, among the mountains, Achalas, I am the Himachala. Arjuna, he says, I thought we were just talking to each other on equal terms. Suddenly somebody says, well, I am the Himalaya. Among the mountains, I am the Meru. Among the immovables, Achalas, I am the Himachala. Among the Munis, I am Kapila. Among the Vedas, I am the Samaveda, and so on. And Arjuna is beginning to wonder if this guy sitting in front of me, who's been a friend, a relative, a charioteer. What's happened to him suddenly that he says, I am the Meru? I mean, he doesn't say, is he okay? But he begins to wonder. So what's happening here? There is a slight breaking away from the ordinary systems of logic. If it's logically taken, it should be that, oh, Krishna is my friend, he's my charioteer, he's talking to me, maybe a yogi, but he's explaining things to me. Okay. But now when Krishna says, I am the Meru, or I am Kapila, or I am the Samaveda, what's happened? There's a complete breakup of the ordinary modes of thought in Krishna's mind. In Arjuna's mind. He's still puzzled when suddenly there is the 11th chapter, which is Vishwarupa Darshana. In Vishwarupa Darshana, Arjuna is completely lost because he can't make head or tail of what's happening. This man who was sitting before me, suddenly everything is coming out of him and he is getting into everything. Everything goes into him and comes out. He just can't, all the deities are there before him. He's completely shattered. His so-called logical build-up of the mind is totally broken. And he's at a loose end. When he's at the loose end, then begins the 12th chapter, Bhakti Yoga. So what I'm trying to say, that all the effort of Vyasa in the rest of the chapters is to put us at the loose end first. Then you say, I can't understand using my ordinary brain, this thing that you're talking about. And then the other mind, which is extraordinary, has to take over. And for that, the heart is required. Devotion is required. This is why it was delayed till the 12th chapter. The 12th chapter, Arjuna is one of the few chapters which start with Arjuna Uvacha. Usually it's Bhagavan Uvacha. There are a few more, and the question that Arjuna asks Krishna is very interesting. He says, some say that those who worship the Supreme Being as the formless, ultimate, absolute, unpalpable, unreachable, indefinable, some say that they are the people who are the greatest of yogis. On the other hand, some people say that those who think of the divine as you're sitting before me, or playing the flute in Vrindavan, or cavorting with the gopis, or becoming the Jagat Guru and sitting here and teaching me, some feel that those who worship the Supreme this way, as you are, with name and form, are the greatest of yogis. Can you explain to me? If you say, I will accept it as authentic, there's no question, because I have seen you. You are not an ordinary being. So can you please explain to me which is correct? Which the first party said or the second party? And Krishna in his own beautiful way, because Arjuna still has a limited brain. It needs to be explained in a different way. So instead of going directly and answering that question, Krishna says to him, listen, there were great rishis, there still are maybe, who have worshipped the Supreme Being as a formless absolute. Fine. There is no question asked. There were also great yogis, there is no question. But most of us who live with name and form, we are in this world of name and nama rupa. How do we recognize each other? Through name and form. Suppose I know somebody for some years with a big beard and moustache. He suddenly shaves everything and comes and it takes me 10 minutes to understand who this guy is. Form. And when I know the form, I know the name. Or when I know the name, the mind clicks, oh, this is the man. So our world is mostly wound up with names and forms. It's difficult for us to conceive something without that. If you can, it's okay, but it's generally not possible. Some people say, oh, I don't believe in this form. Even the form of the teacher, it's all nonsense. We need to go directly to the... Okay, I usually bow down. You're right. I don't know how far you can touch it. I don't say that, of course. The reason is, we ourselves are so attached to name and form. What is the first thing that usually we do in the morning when we wake up? When we brush our teeth, we're looking at the mirror, right? Why? Because we want to see our form, right? And how many more wrinkles are there? How many more grey hairs have come? The ladies, have I plucked the eyebrows in the proper arch? And yet we believe only in the supreme formless reality. We are attached to our own forms and the names. Imagine you're going on the street and somebody calls you by a wrong name. How offended would you be? And this guy doesn't even remember my name. So Krishna says to Arjuna, look, Arjuna, while the Supreme Being, the Rishis have looked at it as the Supreme Absolute and so on, fine. They were also great yogis. However, for most of us who are name and form oriented, it's not so easy to fix our attention on an absolute being. And those of us who are attached to name and form are also attached to service, to help. There are people who hate and try to do disservice, but I'm saying those who are moving on the spiritual path. When you have a name and form, you like to serve, you like to help, you feel a connection between the two. Therefore, it would be easier for most people to do that. So, Arjuna has a question which he doesn't put. You can find out when you read. There is an unasked question, which is, which case if I worship you as you are, am I a yogi? Am I a greatest of yogis? Krishna says, not enough. So then what more? He says, it doesn't matter whether you look at the Supreme as formless or with form, or as me, or as Shiva or Devi. He didn't say that, I am saying this, I am interpreting it. But a person needs to have certain attributes. If the person, through worship and through following the path, has these attributes in him or her, I would consider such a person as the greatest of yogis or bhaktas. Because in this chapter the word yogi and bhakta are interchangeable. Yaha bhakta same priya. That bhakta is dear to me also. So what are the qualities? So Krishna says, please tell me. Sorry, Arjuna. Krishna says one of the qualities by which I would recognize somebody as the greatest of yogis. One, samniyam indriya gramam. One who has control over his senses. Doesn't matter whether you'll think of the Supreme as formless or with form. Irrelevant, but it's easier to have something, but doesn't matter. Samniyam indriya gramam means one who can keep all his senses under control. Not that you don't indulge, but you don't allow the senses to run away with you. That the mind controls the senses rather than the senses control the mind. Now, control of the senses also means control of emotions. Anger, hatred, everything is sense-based, based on our sensory experiences. So can we control this? The more you control, the greater a yogi you are. Otherwise, you know the situation. I meditate for 2 hours very calmly. The moment I opened my eyes, I called somebody a bad word or say, get out. doesn't mean anything. I mean, you can act, of course. Sometimes people don't do things if you don't act. That's a different story. But if you're a genuine soul, then very soon people discover that this is an act. So they still won't work. So that's okay. Happens to me very, very often. My driver, for instance, has realized that when he thinks I'm angry with him, I'm not. He knows. So he is as he is, he's not changed. So what to do? So, Samniyam Indriya Gramam, one who has control over one's senses. Okay. Next. Sarvatra Samabuddhya. That is, if someone can remain tranquil in the midst of all circumstances. Now this is possible only if one is a sthita prajna. One whose prajna has become steady and quiet, equal and equally tranquil under all circumstances. Look at our life, how it runs. When things are good, what we think is good. Sometimes what we think good may be what bad for us, but we think what we think. Then we are very happy. We are up, floating in the air, cloud 9. Suppose somebody here says, oh, he's a great yogi, Sri, I'm sitting here. I don't, but generally, what happens? Floating in cloud 9. Because I expect an abuse after that, so not always. So then, and if somebody says, this fellow is an idiot or a fool, what happens? You're down in the dumps. This is our life. I went to the marriage that day, nobody recognized me. Somebody told me, actually, I went to a marriage, nobody recognized me, feeling very sad. I said, wonderful, you could have had a good meal and gone home happy. Nobody disturbed you. But this is our life. Up and down, depends on public opinion. Now that way you can learn a lot from politicians. You can say what you want, they'll do what they want. This is not a sthita prajna, I'm just giving you an example. There are good points there also. So, can we keep our minds sarvatra samabuddhya in all situations? Suppose I'm feeling very happy, suppose, and suddenly one of the ladies stands up and says, you are a fool. No, Shyamala, you won't say that. She's looking aghast. Or a fool. So you know what happens normally? The whole sthita is all completely broken. What if I don't know English? You call me a fool, I don't know English. I know only Hindi. I might think you're calling me a pool, a flower. I'm happy. It's a question of understanding and language. But Krishna says, is it possible, not depending on any of these external reactions, to keep your mind tranquil? Tulyananda Stutir Moni, another place. Moni is one who considers Ninda and Stuti as the same. No problem here. Why? Because deep down in essence, we are not this or this. We are a spark of the divine, which is always divine. Nobody can do anything about it. Can we move there and stick there and not get caught up with this? So, one, samniyam indriya gramam, control. Keep your senses under control. If you don't keep your senses under control, nothing matters. You can keep a shika, you can cut it off and take sannyas. Sarvatra samabuddhya. Can we keep our prajna steady? Actually, the real prajna is always steady. Can we understand this and quieten the mind? And the last, sarva bhuta hite ratha. one who has the welfare of all living beings in his or her heart. Sarva Bhuta Hiterata, because a yogi is one who sees the divine spark in everyone, no matter what the externals are. And seeing the divine spark, he sees that the divine who you worship in the temple, the divine whom you chant about, that divine is the antaryami of every living being. Of course, when I say every living being, please include human beings also. In the hearts of all living beings as the antaryami. Therefore, every moving living being is a moving temple of God. The other God sits in one place. Here is the God that is moving. Even if that person hasn't understood it, a yogi who understands it, therefore bows down to everyone, because he sees only the divine inside. And Krishna says to Arjuna, such a yogi or bhakta, yaha bhakta same priya, I consider that bhakta to be the dearest to me. So, trying as a sadhak to bring about this change in oneself, these 3 points, and understanding the fact that the brain is too limited to understand that which is expansive and which is beyond all definitions. If one journeys on this path, and one day, perhaps, one would reach there. This is what I wanted to tell you. There's a third part. If one somehow touches this and sees the divinity in all living beings as an actuality, not as a theory, then it is very natural that you are humble to others. I mean, you don't have to be deliberately humble to others. You are humble and others find it so. That's all. You know, that not putting on an act of humility, but being actually humble, because one, we know that our brain is so puny that no matter how much we construct it, it cannot touch the divine. Then what is the point? You are humble. 2, everything around you is divine. Therefore you bow down to everything, which is what? Humility. So when you look at the lives of great saints and great realized souls, you will find this humility outstanding in them. I haven't met Papa Ramdas, I have not met him. But people who have met him have said things about him, of which one of the things I see is that he was completely simple, approachable and humble. I don't know, Swamiji must be able to say yes or no to this, but of course he won't say no to it. And then I could not meet Krishna Bhai, but I have heard. But I had the good fortune to meet Swami Sachidananda, who was there. And the first thing that touched me was the humility of the man. There was no pretense of anything. I mean, but you know, many people, you have all met him. He has lived with him for so many years. Swamiji has lived. We know this. There are many people here who have lived with him. And that rubs off. You don't have to say anything, it rubs off. It gets into your bloodstream, let me put it that way. I remember that after meeting my Guru Maheshwarnath Babaji, I don't like to say my Guru because that means you're separating yourself, but still it so happens that I had a physical Guru, Maheshwarnath Babaji. After meeting him and after meeting Babaji and after meeting many yogis and so on, it's like the 2 incidents I would like to tell, because all the time I've been talking something else, something personal.
before we end. Arati എത്ര മണിക്കാണ്?
12:15.
So, one is about, let me come to Swamiji at the end, Swami Satchidananda. But before that, I want to tell you about a very senior monk of the Ramakrishna order. I consider him as one of my Upa-Gurus, Swami Tapasyananda. By the time he passed away, he was Vice President of the Ramakrishna order. He was one of the people who had done a lot of personal service to Sharda Devi, the Holy Mother. Actually, he is also from Kerala, from Malakot or something like that. And he was initiated by Swami Shivananda, who was known in the Ramakrishna mission circles as Mahapurush Maharaj. And he got sannyas from him also. He was a man who had a certain stature in the organization also. I used to meet him when I was a boy studying in school in Trivandrum, when he was heading the Ramakrishna Mission Center in Trivandrum, Shastamangalam. So we used to have meetings very regularly and so on. Then I went off to the Himalayas. Actually, through Swami Tapasyananda, I met another wonderful person called Professor Balakrishnan, who used to live in Trivandrum. And Sundays I used to go and sit with him. Also for the nice cup of coffee his wife made. We also have some weaknesses, right? Many years afterwards, when I went off to the Himalayas, I met Babaji. I travelled, I met many people, I came back. Babaji said, go back. So I came back. There was one thing that in my mind was kind of rankling, which was, and then I had, on Babaji's instructions, spent many years here and there in the Ramakrishna Mission, in Belur Math, in Vidyapeeth, and so many places. But one thing was, I said, but I still haven't taken initiation from the Ramakrishna Mission. It was in my mind how to do it. And the difficulty was, in those days, only the president can give you initiation. He occupies the chair of Thakur, so he can give initiation. No local head of the math can give initiation. So, I was wondering what to do. So several years later, about 4 years after, just before he passed away, I heard that he had come back to Chennai as president of the Ramakrishna Mission there. And he was working on the Bhagavatam, I think 5 years before. He was writing a beautiful Bhagavatam translation, very big. He was working on that. So I went to meet him. He recognized me instantly. And he said, Chuttalaka Nirtyo, Varadhatano. Finished all wandering. Are you in one place? I said, yes, Swamiji. So, haven't met you for a long time. I said, yeah, that's why I came to see you. I heard you are in Chennai, so I came. Anything in particular? He said, Swamiji, Maharaj, in Ramakrishna Mission they all say Maharaj, they don't say. I said, Maharaj, after all these years being in the Ramakrishna Mission also, and met you when I was in school, something troubles me. I haven't taken the mantra diksha from the Ramakrishna Mission. So what to do? And I said, but also I can't, you have to go to Belur Math because only the president can give the diksha. So I was sitting there, he put his hand on my hand and he said, who said? I said, what do you mean who said? He said, the rules have become softened now. The vice president can also give initiation. So, so I said, which vice president? So So I said, but Maharaj, what shall I do now? I was so thrilled because I always considered him as kind of like an upaguru for myself even before this. So I said, so what shall I do? He said, nothing. Vijayadashmi is coming in a couple of days. You come here one morning to the matha. That time the new temple was not there. Bring some one mundu and some flowers and some dakshina. That's all. You come. I thought, no, this is going to be tough because there will be many people for me. So I went that day and they said he is still in the shrine, he has not come out. So I went outside the shrine. The brahmachari told me that the initiation is fixed in the evening at 4 o'clock. I was there at around 11:30. Suddenly the shrine door opened and he came out. And for a second, he was a chubby man. For a second, he looked so different in my eyes. I was not imagining. His face was red, absolutely red. And he was wearing a mundu and a cloth here, and his chest was, everything was red, and he was looking at me as if I was a stranger. But I knew that he recognized me somehow. He only said few things. He said, go to that room. I said, okay. Then he said, I said, yes. Go there, he said. He came directly to that room. Brahmachari said, where? I said, sorry. He gave me the mantra. And I'm not surprised, but I was very happy that it contained my favorite Bijakshara also, Shakti Bijakshara. He gave me the mantra and he said, now you're initiated. Your last desire is. I said, no, there's one more, I can't tell you, but there's one more desire. So I left it there. Then he blessed me and then he said, have your prasad here and go back. So the brahmachari came and said, you are very lucky because the initiation is at 4 o'clock. Swamiji gave you before that. So I handed over the dhoti which is returned to me and came back. I put the flowers at his feet. He said, no, put it for Thakur. So I went inside and put it on the shrine. I bowed down and I came out. That is one incident. Now, at 4 o'clock, at 5 o'clock, I was curious, so I went back because that time he was in a mood when I couldn't actually have any light conversation with him. So I went back in the evening and just before Arati, I got hold of him. Initiations were over. So we were chatting for a while. He said, every day you have to practice. I said, oh. And don't think I initiated you. I said, but you did. He said, we consider that it is Thakur who initiates through us, not me. You and I are same. I was shocked because he's such a senior old man, wise man. He said, you and I are same. You have the mantra, I have the mantra. So I bowed down. And just before I went, he called me back and he said, do you perform prayers 5 times a day? I said, no. I said, for years I haven't done any such thing. For childhood I might have done, but I've not done. But I meditate regularly. And then, why are you asking me, Maharaj? No, it's a good prayer. I do 5 times a day. I was shocked. This is India, I said. So that is one personal experience of humility and straightforwardness and grace from a great man. So when I told him, when he said, now all your wishes are fulfilled, I said, no, there's one more. And I said, I don't want to tell you, and evening I forgot to mention. Years passed, he passed away. I remember I went to Belur to see Swami Ranganathananda, who was president at that time, and he talked to me at length saying how Tapasyananji was such an old friend of his and how he went. So anyway, that story ended there. Then, what I had in my mind was, for many years I have been reading Papa Ramdas's works. And I have come here many times. Sometimes I had come with my wife, my in-laws, because they all belong to the same Purva Ashrama, Saraswat people. So I came with them a couple of times and so on. But I still had this, that maybe it was wonderful if one of them had given me this mantra also. So it was in my mind. So one day I came alone, without paraphernalia. I met Swami Sachidanandji. I don't know if Swamiji was there or not, I'm not sure. I remember that at that point of time you were wearing white. He called me, I went inside, here. And he said again the same question he asked, like something, anything on your mind? So I said, I don't know whether I should say this to you, but it would be nice to get the mantra from you. Because maybe then that is all, then I don't need anything else. It's all over for me. This is left. He said, okay, we can do that. He gave me some time in the afternoon, I think. So I went there, expecting that he is going to give me the mantra. I went, I bowed down, I sat down. He asked somebody to bring a tape recorder. In that, there was the sound of Papa Ramdas chanting the mantra. Om Sri Ram Jai Ram. Not Om, I think only Sri Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram. Om Sri Ram Jai Ram. He gave it, he put on the tape and he said, you listen to this carefully. He said, chant it once, chanted it. You got the mantra. I said, I thought, he said, no, Papa gave you the mantra, I didn't give you the mantra. So you see you see the point, what I am trying to say. So people come to me and say, oh, give me Kriya. Oh, they think that if you do Kriya, then everything is over. But there are many people who haven't done this Kriya and still reached the heights of spiritual. No, it's not really that. And when I give, I keep in my mind the fact that it is Maheshwarnath Babaji who is giving you the Kriya. So tomorrow when you think, oh, M gave me the, please don't show any respect to me. It's coming from that M, Maheshwarnath. M. Which means what? I'm free of responsibility. If you don't do it, it's up to you. Thank you very much. Om Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Swamiji, thank you once again.
I don't thank you. Who should thank you?
तेजस्विनावतीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै. ओम शांति शांति शांति. श्री गुरुभ्यो नमः. श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम. So yesterday we started with a very serious subject of, I said, let's start with Upanishad and go to the Bhakti. Today is the last day here, I mean for the time being I come back. Since I have to go immediately after the satsang. So instead of that, today I am going to start with some simple stories which you will remember always. I'm sure when you talk about the Upanishad, come in from here and go out to the other. But, okay. But if you hear stories, stories are something which we remember forever. How many classes do you remember in school? Or college? But if somebody has said a story, you will not forget it. It will be in your head. Because the human mind is attuned to storytelling. Ancient art of storytelling. Take an example. I'm going to tell you a small story and see if it really is a story. Rama was the son of Dasharatha. Sita was his wife. Ravana took her to Lanka. Sri Ram, along with the help of the Vanaras and Hanuman, of course, rescued her and brought her back. It really doesn't make a story. But when Valmiki wrote it, in fact, Valmiki is called the Adi Kavi, the first epic poet in India. The whole thing became a beautiful epic drama, mostly Vipralamba Rasa, which means the rasa of being deprived. Throughout you will see the story. Read the Ramayana. There is always this sadness of being separated, separation. And this sadness of separation is actually there in all our lives because the Antaryami is Sri Ram and the human soul or the mind which is conditioned is separated from it and it's always longing for it. And who is the one who keeps the separation intact? Ravana. The material world, the five senses, So, a story is important, which is why I say that one of the very important textbooks that you should read. I know some of you would say, oh, we are intellectuals. Okay, fine. Still, at least as a story, read the Bhagavad. Please understand that the Bhagavad was written by Vedavyasa, who also wrote the Brahma Sutras, Vyasa's Vedanta Sutras, which of course is not easy for people to read. But when he wrote the Bhagavad, the story is that after having written the Brahma Sutra, which is the ultimate in the philosophy, Hindu philosophy, Vyasa was sitting in his ashrama with a not very happy state of mind. So Narada, as usual, like Narada, he is the one who creates problems. If you don't create problems, how do you solve it? So Narada appears with his veena and looks at Vyasa and says, you have done the Brahma Sutra, you still look a little sad. What is the problem? Why are you looking like this? So Vyasa says, yeah, I feel kind of little dry. The heart has vanished, there is more the brain working. So Narada says to him, write the story of the Bhagavat, starting from creation down to the last avatara that you know of. Write the story of all the avatars. Huh? In Guruvayur somebody said, Malsyan Dottu Thodangicholu, like that for Narayaniyam. From Matsya Avatara right to the end, he wrote the story of the Bhagavad. So what is interesting in Bhagavad is the entire truth that Vyasa presented in the Vedanta Sutras is presented in beautiful story form in the Bhagavad. So I always encourage people to read the Bhagavad. In fact, perhaps I am one of the few people who travel all around the world and talk about the Bhagavata Saptaha in English. Everybody does it in Malayalam, Hindi, Tamil. But Bhagavata Saptaha in English because young people, college students, IITs, they would get to know what's going on. This is not some stories which our forefathers said, there's something more to it. This is what I do. One of my jobs is to present the Bhagavad in English in a simple style. I try to follow Swami Tapasyananda's translation in some way because he is my Upaguru and it's a very simple translation, beautiful translation. So today we are just going to discuss a few stories. And these stories, if you don't want to believe them, just listen to them as if they are stories. No problem. At some point in your life, the seed which has been planted will sprout. And then you will begin to understand the implications of the story. First, English ariya. So first story. There was a mother who had only one son. And she actually didn't know who the father was. I mean, she knew, but the son didn't know who the father was. He was brought up by the mother because the father, she was working in some helping rishis and trying to look after them, doing her household jobs for them. In some way she got a son and that's it. So she had to look after the son. But the mother was very keen that the son should become educated, even though she didn't have any money to pay for the education. Luckily, those days, there were pathshalas where people were taught without taking money. We hardly have such institutions now in our country. You need to shell out quite a bit if you have to educate your child. So there was a pathshala which was not very close to her house, little far away, and there was nothing else around, where there was a very good teacher. And she went to him and begged him with close folded hands, "Can I send my son to you for education?" So he agreed. So she started sending her son to the school to study. Now the thing is, the first day she went there, she took her son. It was quite far away. And you had to cross a very, very wild forest, thick forest, like a rainforest, with plenty of wild animals around. So she took this little son of hers and went across the forest. There were wild animals howling and making noises. And then went to the pathshala, introduced her son to the adhyapak, to the acharya, and came back. The next day the son had to go alone. So he said to his mother, "Amma, how can I go through this forest? I'll feel very frightened because there are wild animals there. I don't think I can make it." So just to make him happy and put some courage into him, she told him a story. It's a story, okay, you take it as a story. She said, in this deep forest, when you go, there is a little boy who lives here, dark in color. Sometimes he wears a peacock feather on his head. He plays beautiful music on the flute. It was a story manufactured by the mother to make the boy happy. With a peacock feather. So next time you go there and you feel frightened, just call him loudly. Say, "Govinda, Govinda, come and help me. I am very frightened of animals." He'll come and then he'll help you and then you can go. So the boy who trusted his mother 100%, because she is the only one who cared for him and looked after him. He trusted her fully. So he went. First day he went. Somewhere in the depth of the forest he got worried because he heard something roaring, some animal. So he thought, I'll follow my mother's advice. So he put his hands up and he put it, Govinda, come here, man. I'm feeling very frightened. A small boy came with a peacock feather, very dark, with a flute in his hand, sat down there, produced from a bag some golis, marbles, you know. So they played marble for some time. Said, don't worry, I am from this forest, nobody will do anything, I know what to do. So they played marbles for some time. And then he walked to the edge of the forest, left him there, said, now you go to the Parshala, I am going back and came on. This happened every day. And every day the boy would come and tell his mother, this is what happened. You're right, there is this little dark boy in there, Govinda. So whenever I call him, he comes, and we saw my mother laugh to herself. This fellow believes exactly what I say. Good, you must be imagining. Went on for many days. One day, it was the time when the teacher's birthday was coming. So everybody had to take a gift for the teacher. A lot of people went with gifts. This boy had nothing. He told his mother, I also have to take a gift because everybody is going to bring a gift. So the mother said, I have nothing here. Neighbor has a cow. So what you do is, the only vessel I have here is a small little katori made of silver left by a great rishi with me when I was serving him. Take this katori, I will fill some milk from the neighbor's cow. So take this and give your gift. But this is the only katori that I possess. So give the milk and bring back the katori. This boy said, okay, innocent boy. So he said, okay, not like us. So he went with the katori of milk. Lots of people were giving very expensive gifts to the Acharya. He went with this little, some of his fellow students made fun of him. Oh, this fellow will also come with a katori. Now what happened was, in between, as they passed through the forest, he wanted to show this gift to this little boy. He was not frightened, there were no animals at that time. So he called, Govinda, I wanted to show you a gift, I am taking it to give to the Acharya. So the Govinda came and said, oh, let me see the gift. Oh, this is milk. He said, let me drink a little. He said, no, don't do it. I have to give us a gift. He said, doesn't matter, give it to me. So he sipped a little bit of milk and he said, now you take it and give it to him. So he reached there. As I said, people made fun of him. What is this katori, this fellow? Apart from that, as soon as he reached the Acharya's feet, chair, he said, I need the katori back. I can give you the milk. My mother wants the katori back. So everybody made fun of him. Anyway, the teacher said, okay, bring a bucket or bring a little vessel and fill the milk and give it back to him. He wants to take it back. So they brought a vessel and filled it and gave it back to him. So the boy said, but sir, there is still milk in this. Oh, they said, send more. He said, but there is still milk in. So it went on for some time. Then 3 buckets were full. And the katori was still milk, full of milk. So the teacher got angry. He said, say something. Did you do any magic? Is your mother an expert in Indrajal? What has happened? What have you done? He said, this is happening. I don't believe you. So the boy told him, sir, please, there is a little boy called Govinda who lives in the forest on the way to your place, and he took the milk and sipped it and gave it to me. That's all. I don't know anything about this. So the teacher said, so you got milk which somebody has already had a drink, is it? Is this a kind of gift to give to an acharya? Terrible. I think you are bluffing. There is no little boy, then you must have had a drink before you. I said, sir, please, if you come with me to the forest, I can show you this boy. Please come. So he took the teacher and went back to the forest. And in the forest, he went and shouted loudly, "Hey, Govinda, come, come, come. My teacher says I am a bluff, I am telling lies. Please come and show your face so that I can tell him that this is the boy who sipped the milk." No sign of Govinda. He tried very hard. No Govinda. Finally, the teacher said, I think you are a liar. At that point, Govinda didn't come, but there was a voice. Akashavani, not All India Radio. Akashavani from the Akasha. And the voice said, look, I can't come and show my face. The boy said, why? He said, because these people who have come, they're not evolved enough to see me. They don't have the devotion to see me. You and me are different matter because you believe in me and you see me. Your teacher hasn't developed enough to see me. So there's no point in showing my face to him. After many words, when he reaches your stage, I will reveal my face to him. Now you would say, is this a nice story, beautiful story, enjoyable story, but does it mean anything? I fully believe that it is possible, but apart from that. Thing is, only when our mind becomes like the mind of a little child who bears no rancor towards anybody and who accepts everybody as own. The mind is not complicated by the hundreds and thousands of books that we have read and become so crowded that there is no place for anything else to come in. People easily say that it's easy to you have to get rid of the ego. It's not an easy thing to get rid of the ego. Because more than the feeling of I did something, there is also this feeling that I have read this, I have read that, I have read Brahma Sutras, I have read the commentaries, I have read the Upanishad, all fine, you can read. But the fact is, unless the mind, by reading this, becomes simple and not caught up by the theories and conflicts. I meet people who have 100 questions. What are the questions? In Advaita, Shankara says like this. In Vishishta Advaita, Mohan Ramanuja. I said, what is your interest? What do you want? What Ramanuja says, what Madhva, that's not our, what do you want? I want to find the truth. I said, for a time being, can you rest all these things and remain true? Is it possible to do that? We read so much that we get so influenced and then we don't know what to do. Our mind is so crowded, we have this feeling, I know everything. My understanding of this matter is that like the small boy we referred to in the story, a spiritual journey begins when I say, I don't know. It's not easy, nobody will admit it. It's so difficult. If I say, I don't know, there's the beginning. Look at all scientific inventions, all the great discoveries of science. They started because somebody said, I don't know, maybe, let me find out. The moment I say, I know, I have concluded and I have made such a strong veil of the knowledge that I have gathered that even if truth wants to come, there is no way to come. It's veiled. And the veil is like the iron curtain. Iron curtain. Can't separate it. Which is why some very simple people who lived in villages who had no understanding of anything, any scriptures, have reached the supreme reality. Have. I'm not saying others can't, but they have. Which points to the fact that simplicity, like the mind of a child, is a very important necessity for spiritual development. Think about it. Connected to this is another little story I want. Today is a storytelling time, okay? Karavarayum Neram. I think there's a book like that called Karavarayum Neram. There's a book written by a very old retired bishop of the Archbishop of the Syrian Church, who is now retired from all active parts, and he lives near the Pamba River in a small little house. We went and met him. Something, I forgot his name. Some Chrysostos Tirvini or somebody like that. Huh? Mar Chrysostos. His biography is a small little book in Malayalam which is called Kadavarai Neram. So it's like Kadavarai Neram. So, the other story is about connected to this, but a very learned professor, no offense meant to professors, went to a Zen master in Japan. And said, "Master, please teach me Zen. Lead me to the experience of the Satori." You know, Satori is like Samadhi. If you translate into Japanese, it's Satori, illumination, enlightenment, breaking down of barriers. So the Zen master said, "Professor, all that is fine, please sit down. I'm going to make a cup of tea for you. So have a cup of tea first and then..." So the professor said to himself, I asked him a very serious question about Satori and Zen, and he wants me to drink a cup of tea. I mean, this is silly, but anyway. You know, Zen masters are strange people. You can't argue with them. You might get kicked out. Not like us. You can argue as much as you want. But you go to a Zen master, it's quite possible that you might be slapped or kicked out. If you're not ready for that, it's good not to go to a Zen master. They're like the avadutas that we have. So, he went to him and said, so he went and made tea from the kitchen. You know, the Japanese do everything in a very nice design and in a very ritualistic and artful manner. So he put a table there, covered it with a tablecloth, put the cup there, brought the kettle, waved it 3 times around, and then started pouring. Anahata Shabdam Geka, Pettannoki. Then he started pouring the tea. The professor was watching. So he filled the cup and he continued to pour. And then the cup became full and the tea started dripping down into the tablecloth and down onto the earth. And he still continued to pour. After some time, the professor couldn't control himself. He said, "Sir, the cup is overflowing." So he stopped. And he turned to the professor. And he said, "Your cup is overflowing. How can I give you Zen? No space. So filled up with so many things, so many thoughts. This philosophy, that philosophy, this thought, that thought. Basically self-centered thoughts. How can I give you Zen?" So space is required. This is the other story which is linked to what I said before. So then people ask, so if we give up all this and become, what is life after all? We like to enjoy life. We like to have fun, we like to have. Are you saying that the spiritual life is not fun? Please. Is there no joy in the spiritual life? In fact, those who have tasted even one little drop of that joy will find no joy anywhere else. Or they'll find the same joy manifested everywhere else. Actually, we are drunks, we enjoy. Seriously. You think you are sober, but we are not sober. I hope. I hope you are sober. In the other way, chemical. So I'm going to tell you another story. This happened more than 100 years ago. There was one M. Not this. There was one M who wrote the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, whose name was Mahendranath Gupta. And he was a headmaster of a school. Mohan is looking keenly at me. He is convinced that I am the same M, and I have to dissuade him from spreading this propaganda. Anyway, so he was a headmaster of a school, and one day he had no interest in religion, philosophy, nothing. One day he had a big fight at home. All married people know what it is. It was so bad that he was thoroughly disgusted with life. Yo, എന്തോ അലാം പോകുന്നു ഇന്നത്തെ കാലം. ഓഫ് ചെയ്യ വേഗം. ഇവിടെ മറ്റേ ആൻറ്റി ബോംബ് സ്ക്വാഡൊന്നും ഇല്ല. So anyway, doesn't matter, it's okay. We'll do. So, what is it? Everybody is eager about that. Anyway, so he had a big fight and it was so terrible that he left home. And one of his friends said, there's a nice place called Dakshineshwar on the banks of the Ganga, the Hooghly River. Beautiful place. It's a garden of Rani Rasmuni. So you can go and enjoy yourself there. Forget about all this for the time being and then go back. So he said, you might, if you're lucky, meet a Paramahamsa there. He said, I don't want to meet any Paramahamsas, but if the garden is nice, I would love to go there. And he started. Those days, they were all horse buggies, horse carts. So just as soon as the horse buggy reached opposite the Dakshineshwar garden, axle broke. He had no intention of going actually. When he heard there is a Paramahamsa, there is a temple, he decided not to go. Young Bengal. So, the axle broke, so there was nothing else he could do. So he got off and got into the garden. No intention of seeing anybody. He was enjoying the garden happily near the river, when he saw a gentleman coming close. And this gentleman was wearing a white, red bordered dhoti, Bengali dhoti. When they wear it, sometimes one end is so long you have to put it in the pocket. And a nice white kurta. It was winter, so he was wearing a black jacket. Very nice polished leather jutis, red. You have seen only Ramakrishna Paramahamsa's later day pictures with a beard. The early days used to clean shave. And he was very good looking, very fair and good looking. On top of that, he chewed some pan, so his lips were red. So this gentleman came and asked him, "Oh, how are you? Who are you? What's your name?" So he asked him discreetly, "Is there some Paramahamsa living?" Because he didn't think this is a Paramahamsa. Paramahamsa idea is some matted hair. He said, in Bengali, he asked him, "Do you know any Paramahamsa living here?" He said, "No, I don't know." He said, "I don't know any Paramahamsa living. It doesn't matter. Sit down, let's have a chat." Then he asked him, "So, what do you think about God?" He was shocked. Why is this guy suddenly talking about God? Because the subject I really want to avoid. He said, "Yeah, what is the question? Do you believe in God with form or without form?" Straight. Now he was, all young people in Bengal used to go to the Brahma Samaj at that time. For some, even Swami Vivekananda was an ex-Brahma Samajist. So he said, "I believe in God without form, Supreme God." Okay. He said, "That's also good. It's okay. And this Supreme God of yours, does he live in a specific place or is he all pervading? Everywhere? Or in some specific heaven? Where does he live?" He said, "He's all pervading. He's everywhere." Oh, he said, "He's everywhere. Okay. Then I have a question for you." He pointed to the temple, the Kali temple there. You know, the Dakshineshwar temple is Bhadrakali standing. He said, "If your God is all pervading everywhere, then he must be also there in the image, right?" What do you say? If a God is all pervading, he has also to be in the image. He cannot be outside it. You can't deprive the image of it. He said, "Must be." Probably yes. So then why do you discard it? He said, "No, but even though he's all pervading and he's in the image, we have to convince people and make them understand that it is the all pervading supreme reality who is also there. We have to teach people that, otherwise they will ignorantly do it." He said, "Listen, stop." He said, "This is the problem with this, you young Bengal." He said, "You don't know a thing, but you want to teach others how to change. First, do you know anything about this?" So Gupta, Mahendranath Gupta, M was stunned. Nobody has asked him this question before. And he's himself a professor. He's this man he has heard. He's an illiterate man who hasn't even been to school. So where does this thought come into him? What kind of a man? He was puzzled. He did answer back. Then he left. He did pronounce and he left. And when he left, he said to himself, "I don't think I will come back here." He went. Many days passed. Many days. If you go to Dakshineshwar temple, as you enter the temple, on the right side, near the main entrance, on the right side, there's a small room where Sri Ramakrishna used to sit. And all his disciples used to gather. All the big Swamijis later on, who were young boys at that time, they all used to gather there and they practically had fun. And through fun they learnt everything. Ramakrishna would demonstrate how a frog jumps. Then he would give them rasgullas to eat. In fact, some of the parents said, "These boys are wasting time with that mad priest. There is nothing going on. They just have some fun and they're eating rasgullas. What is going on?" But you know what happened to those boys. One became Swami Vivekananda. One became Sharadananda. What? Many. Brahmananda. Anyway, so these boys were sitting and Ramakrishna, as usual, they called him Thakur. So Thakur was having fun, talking stories like this, little stories, joking. So he said that there was a temple where the priest used to mix opium with the prasadam, with the milk. milk that was offered to the deity used to mix opium in it. So one day a peacock came there and he drank the milk. And the next day onwards, every day, at that point he would appear again, the peacock, because of the opium. Beautiful feeling. And having said that, he said, it was a Sunday. He said, that peacock will come now. So they said, which peacock? So they just left it because Thakur sometimes said sensible things, sometimes said mad things, so nobody knows what this peacock is going. Maybe a peacock is going to come, who knows? So they kept quiet. 5 minutes later, because it was a Sunday and there was no school, so M, for some reason, thought, let me go back and visit this place. Nobody knows why he thought, but I think he had tasted a little bit of opium. And not real opium. So he went back. As soon as he entered the room, outside, Thakur whispered to Sharad, the peacock has come. They all laughed. So after Thakur had gone inside, after they went out, he asked the boys, do I look like a joker? Why did you laugh when I came in? They explained to him the story of the peacock. So he said to them, it's true, I don't know what it is. There's some opium in this man. So he started visiting every Sunday and then started keeping notes. Which is why the Gospel of Ramakrishna, if you read, it's only a collection of what happened on Sundays when there was a chutti, when he could come. He continued to work till he retired. And when one of the direct sannyasin disciples of Ramakrishna, who were not sannyasin at that time, also he started imitating him and keeping a diary. One day Thakur told him, what is that you are writing? He said, I am writing my experiences with you. He said, throw it into the Ganga. It's not your job. And M came to know that he has been given the job of doing it, because in between he would suddenly ask him, did you note that down? That is the gospel that you have today. Now, linked to that, I said, what do we enjoy, right? I said, we are drunks. We are. We have our own opiums. Our opium is different from your opium. No, our opiums are same, but some people's opiums are different. If you don't enjoy, who will go to a place? Tell me. It's not. Enjoyment has different ways, different dimensions. And spiritual enjoyment is the greatest of enjoyments. What you enjoy in the world is a small degree from that which is given to us here and there, like knick-knacks. What do you call for a little things you eat, not the main meal, snacks. Except in Gujarat, where it is snakes. Yeah, did you have some snakes for tea? So, so connected to this, I want to connect another story of Ramakrishna, because we have talked about the opium and I want to connect another story. He didn't have opium, don't worry. One day, Sri Ramakrishna was going in a horse buggy along the streets of Calcutta. There were 2 or 3 disciples with him, all householder disciples. The young boys hadn't come yet. They were passing through Esplanade. Today that Esplanade is different from the Esplanade. Today there was no Oberoi, there was no Peerless, nothing there. So as the horse buggy passed through Esplanade, on the footpath, there was a man, a drunk, a real drunk, for whom morning tea started with alcohol. We have a story in Kerala. There's one Mr. Chako who used to be fully drunk also. So somebody said we should ask him in the morning, that he can't have had a drink at that point. So we should ask him. So he went to him and said, "Hey, Mr. Chako, you see that one tree standing there? When you're drunk, how many do you see?" He said, "Oh, those two trees. I see three." This gentleman was like that. So he was passing through the street fully drunk, dancing and behaving in a very funny way, when Sri Ramakrishna suddenly told the driver of the buggy, "Stop, stop now." So he stopped. He came out. He ran to this guy who was on the footpath. He hugged him. And he said, "Oh, we are brothers." That guy was very confused, shocked. "We are brothers. You are drunk, I am drunk. We are both drunkards. Let's dance on the street." This guy was very petrified. He didn't know what to do. But anyway, he hugged him. And the men who were taking him came out and tried to take him away. He said, "Come, Thakur, let's go." He said, "No, I'm not going. He's my brother." Finally, with great difficulty, he was in a trance state. Finally, they brought him, put him in the buggy, and this man was left behind, and he went away. So many years passed, many years. Swami Vivekananda had come, Narendra Datta had become Swami Vivekananda. Belur Math was built by his efforts. Swami Vivekananda went from door to door begging so that he could go abroad. And when he went abroad, money came in and this Belur Math was built. He worked very hard. In fact, he worked so hard that by the age of 41 he had exhausted his body totally. And then he decided, let's go. So, Belur Math was already built, and one day Swami Vivekananda had the habit of sitting inside the sanctum sanctorum and meditating. So one day he was meditating. He opened the door and came out after meditation. And he saw a man standing there with matted hair, very tall, with a cowpin. And he looked very majestic. And Swamiji said, "Namaskar." And he asked him, "What is the matter?" He said, "I have a question for you. Do you belong to this place?" He said, "Yes, I am the caretaker." Swamiji said, "I am the caretaker of this place." If you go to Belur Math now, you will see an image of Ramakrishna there in marble, white marble. Those days there was no image, it was still being made. It came after Swami Vivekananda passed away. There was only a photograph. The usual photograph that you see sitting like this, the beard. That picture was there. There is an old picture which his disciple carried everywhere he went and finally brought back to Belur Math. It was inside the sanctum sanctorum, the Garbhagriha. So this man, this itinerant yogi who stood there, he asked Swamiji, "Can I go and hug that picture there inside?" Swamiji said, "No. We don't allow people to go into the sanctum sanctorum. More than that, nobody is allowed to hug that picture. It doesn't work that way." He said, "But why? Why do you have this idea? Why do you want to hug the picture out there?" Then he told him, "This must have been before your time. You probably don't know. You're too young for that. I was a full drunk alcoholic. And one day I got so drunk, I was dancing and swaying on the streets of Calcutta near the Esplanade. A horse buggy came and stopped. One man jumped out from there. Swamiji, which man? This man. And he hugged me. And he said, we are brothers. You're drunk, I'm drunk, we are brothers. And with great difficulty they took him away. He wouldn't leave me. And then they took him away. I never saw him for many years. I didn't know where he went, who he was. But from that time, I haven't touched a drop of alcohol because I'm always drunk. I get up in the morning and I'm tottering because I'm drunk. There's some ecstasy in me. And then I later came to realize this ecstasy is the Antaryami, the supreme reality sitting inside me. I went to no school. I learned nothing. I was nobody's disciple. One hug. So, if you give me permission, apparently he must have gone, died now. You have a picture which you worship. Can I hug the picture, please? And Swamiji said, yes, you can. So he went inside, he hugged the picture, put it back, came out, and Swamiji said to him, can I touch your feet? He said, no. You are wearing a robe of a sannyasi. Look, I'm still wearing white. My coffin is white. So I'm not taken sannyas. You cannot hug me. I mean, you cannot do pranams to me. I could do pranams to you because physically he is not there, but you are his represented. So if you let me, I can do pranams. Because he was the one who lit the fire in me. And this fire is so all-consuming that I am not there anymore. What is standing before you is a shadow. Swamiji said, reluctantly, you can touch my feet. And then he went off. It is said that Swamiji went to call all his Guru Bhais together to see the man, but by the time they all came, nobody knows where he went, he just walked away. They were not interested in publicity and people. So, these are some of our stories. Last, I'm going to tell you another story, and then you should allow me to go. In 10 minutes I'll finish it. You get 1 hour. Next time when I come back, if Swamiji allows, then we can have another satsang. Get meet. And Swamiji, when I come, you need not necessarily be a satsang. Simply we can hang around, enjoy, get drunk. Sway to our heart's content and go back. So, this is not much of a bhakti story, but it's a funny story, but it defines how we lead our lives and what we could do to escape the way we are. Many of you who have known me for some years have heard this story many times, but I keep repeating it because it needs to be pressed in. We had a Padayatra from Kanyakumari to Kashmir to Srinagar. We passed through Anandashram. I spent one night here and then we started from here. So we were passing through Karnataka, the whole party which was walking, by then it had increased, the number had increased. There were more than 200, 300 people walking. And there are these Lingayat mutts there. The Lingayats who worship Shivlinga, not Linga, they have their own little Linga also, personal Lingas. They're called Lingayats. And they have huge mathas in all over Karnataka. So in all the Lingayat mathas, we were welcomed with open arms. And we slept, we were given food, we were given we looked after. It's not like staying in a hotel, it's different. So in one of the mathas, there is he's still there, very elder, much older than me, Shivacharya Swami of the matha. I don't know the name of the matha. Do you remember anything? Sirigiri. Huh? Sirigiri Math. Sirigiri Math. So this old Swamiji, when I say old meaning older than me, came to the road and walked with us and took us to the ashram and all that. So I have a habit which is inculcated in me by Maheshwarnath Babaji, my guru. He said, whenever you see a sannyasin, meet a sannyasi, whatever you are, who, don't forget that. When you see somebody in an ochre robe, you should surely give some offering. Don't go empty handed. You are not a sannyasin, you are a household, you have money, whatever you have. So I went to the Swamiji one morning. We were there for 3 days, 3 nights or 2 nights. And I went to him and I said, I've come here. This is what I have been instructed by my guru. So wherever there is a sannyas, please accept this. No, I cannot accept it from you. You may not be wearing a saffron robe, but I know you. I cannot. I said, no, this is something which I have to do. Otherwise, I leave it here and go, you do what you want. Okay, he said, finally he took it from me. The interesting thing is, he calculated how much was there, added 50%, and the next day he sent his assistant to all the 300 walkers and got their feet measured for the shoe number. Because we were going to walk till Srinagar. And everybody was given a pair of walking shoes, like Nike or something like that. That's one part of the story. So, since we were walking, among the satsangis, we didn't have a satsang for many days. So all the satsangis told me, oh, we should have a satsang, you're not talking to us nowadays. I said, okay. So in Sirigare Math, in the evening, we decided to have a satsang. Just when the satsang started, Swamiji came, the Swamiji, and he said, I also want to attend the, I said, Swamiji, you don't have to attend the satsang. This is for our little Padayatri group. I am also a Padayatri. So we got a chair and he sat down next to me. I said, do you want to say? No, 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 I just want to hear. So we had a satsang on the Gita. I think Dhyana Yoga, something. At the end of the satsang, I said, Swamiji, would you like to say something, few words? Now, if you permit me, I want to tell a story, he said. So everybody was interested, story. So he said a beautiful story. I love repeating it. So apparently, so relevant to us actually. Apparently there was a great Shilpi, sculptor. Sculptor was the best in his grade. So he went to a temple because he was summoned by the priest to make a new image for the temple, Vigraha. So he went. The priest happened to be a man with a little insight. So he told him, according to me, you are going to die in 3 months. This guy said, what kind of a priest? You have a highway to God, I am sure. Otherwise, why are you a priest here? And you are telling me you are going to die in 3 months. You should tell me how to escape it. That's what you should be telling. He said, to escape is not so difficult. He said, how? You are such a great Shilpi, sculptor. Go now, there is 3 months to your workshop. Make 2 more images of yourself, same size as you, which looks exactly like you. You are such a great sculptor, I have seen your work. When the Yamadutas come, the story is that Yamadutas come on buffaloes. Swami Dayananda Saraswati said, poor people don't have to worry because the buffaloes have big horns, they cannot enter your houses. Anyway, so the story is that the Yama, the Lord of Death, sends his Yamadutas. He said they are quite weak in the head. So you can do something. You make 2 duplicates, you go and stand near them. Okay? Don't stand in the middle, stand on the side. At the exact time when your soul is supposed to be taken, the Yamadutas will arrive. They will be completely confused. These fellows are idiots. They won't know which is real and which is duplicate. So they will look around and then the muhurta will pass and then they will go back and you escaped. Okay, he said. So he made 2 duplicates exactly like him, went and stood in the middle. The Yamadutas came. They looked around. There are 3. They thought they were sent to take 1 fellow. There are 3 fellows looking the same, can't make out which is original, which is duplicate. They were just wondering when the time passed. Muhurta was over, so they went back. They told Yamadeva, boss, no chance. This fellow made 2 images and we can't make out which is duplicate and which is, we had to come back. So what do you advise us to do? So Yamadeva said, I know that you are idiots, but don't worry, because after 3 months this fellow is going to die again. His time is coming again. But I said, but he will do the same thing. We will be in this. Before you go next time, you come to me and I will whisper a secret mantra to you. Take that mantra and go and you can find him. I said, okay. So the priest again told him, 3 months later you are going to go again. The time is coming. So he said, now what to do? He said, do the same thing, you will escape. Okay, he went very bravely. At that exact time, into the workshop, stood with these. Now the Yamadutas were coming. So they went to Yama and said, Lord, what do we say? What is the advice? What mantra? Right. You go there. Don't look for him, you can't find him. Go there and start praising him. Oh, how beautiful. Keep praising and then something will happen, you will get him. So you went there and he was standing as usual. Same posture, all 3. They looked, can't find. Then they said, we'll use the mantra that Lord Yama gave us. What is the mantra? They said, oh, you are such a wonderful sculptor, so beautiful, can't make out which is real and which is duplicate. Even the skin texture looks so much like human skin, and if you put your fingers near the nose, it looks like the image is breathing. Whatever. For 5 minutes he kept quiet. Then he said, I made it. Then they said, come, let's go. So, our biggest problem is I made it. I did this, I did that. Nobody does anything, really. Things happen and we think we did it. So if that is gone, it's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy like tomorrow morning we wake up and say, no, I am not one. So, if that I is gone, then Yama also cannot touch you. Because when you have touched that, which the Vedas declare, Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya, take me from Mrityu to Amrita, deathlessness. Asato ma Sadgamaya, take me from the unreal to the real. Tamaso ma Jyotirgamaya, take me from darkness to that light which does not require electricity or generators. So with that prayer, Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thanking you again, every one of you, for listening carefully, spending your time here, and above all, my pranams to Swamiji for letting me have the chance to come. Thanks. Can I?